Emily is beautiful and smart, she is our only daughter. We don't need a failed, ugly thing like you. Saying that, my parents, with my sister in tow, left our house, leaving behind me, just 14 years old at the time. Being explicitly told I was unwanted, tears overflowed. Always compared to my sister and deprived of love, as a child, I had no choice but to cling desperately to my parents to survive. But never did I imagine they would leave me behind and walk out. What was I to do now? Then, I remembered my grandfather, who doted on my sister and me when we were younger.
Grandpa! I was abandoned because I'm ugly. Help me!
What are you talking about? Don't worry. Samantha, you're not ugly. Just you wait and see. Fast forward 6 years, and just as my grandfather said, I transformed so much that even my parents were shocked. I became the top model. And then, unbelievably, my parents started asking me for money. But I didn't cave in. I'm not the timid child I used to be. Because now, I have strong and important allies on my side. My name is Samantha. I just turned 20 this year. I have an older sister, Emily, who's 3 years my senior. I think we were close when we were younger. We wore matching clothes, walked hand in hand, and never really fought, always playing together as close sisters. Emily had a beautiful face, with fair skin, large double eyelids, and a straight nose. In contrast, I had a very ordinary, plain face. Moreover, while she was petite, I was tall. We were two completely different people. As she grew up, Emily became somewhat of a local celebrity, known for her beauty among neighbors and schoolmates. When she was 12, our parents, proud of their beautiful daughter, entered her into the national beauty contest, just out of curiosity. She didn't win the grand prize, but was awarded the runner-up. It was not Emily, but our parents who were over the moon.
Wow, amazing, Emily. You could become a supermodel. Or maybe an actress. Thanks to Emily, we'll be rich, they exclaimed joyously.
Of course, when Emily became the runner-up, I too jumped for joy with her.
Big sis, you're amazing. Anyone can see how cute you are. I'm so proud of you. Thank you. Samantha, you're cute too. You're tall, you'd be more suited to modeling, she complimented me.
I was truly happy to be praised by my sister. Emily then slowly started modeling. She wasn't in high demand immediately, but as a kid model, she got called for a few magazine shoots. As these days went by, my parents began to neglect me. Until then, I thought they were normal parents. They seemed to care for us both equally. But their attitude changed drastically after the beauty contest. I was aware of this change, even as a child. At mealtimes, delicious food was laid out in front of Emily's seat. In addition, Mom would calculate calories to ensure she didn't gain weight, planning a diet with her health in mind. But all I got was ramen noodles. Even during dining out or vacations, they would only take Emily, leaving me behind. Can you believe it? This situation, I mean. Back then, I was just a grade schooler. My mom always dressed in designer brands, and my dad drove a fancy imported car. Yet, in front of me, they'd say, "We don't have money for your food," or "We can't afford to take you on trips." They said, "Emily is going to be an actress or a model and take care of us in the future. We want to feed her well and make lots of family memories on trips now. But you, Samantha, you're just gonna be an average Joe. It's a waste to spend money on you." But leaving a young daughter alone at home to go on a trip would be a huge issue if it got out. Not wanting my parents to get caught, they usually limited their trips to 1 or 2 nights, leaving me with some instant ramen and money for food. They never bought me clothes either. I always wore Emily's hand-me-downs. They always bought cute clothes for Emily. Emily, concerned for me, once said, "This dress looks better on you, Samantha, so I'll give it to you." It was a really cute dress, and I was over the moon. But when my dad found out I got the dress from Emily, he was furious.
Why are you wearing that dress? Did you steal it from your sister? Dad, no. I gave it to her.
Emily quickly covered for me, but Dad's anger didn't subside. That dress only suits Emily. It's a pity to see you wearing it. Give it back right now, he demanded. Suddenly being yelled at, I, still quite young, was terrified. But Emily stood up for me, saying, I love Samantha. Don't talk to her like that.
Okay, sorry, Emily dear, don't be mad.
Dad said, apologizing only to Emily, never to me. Emily looked at Dad with contempt, but he seemed oblivious to it. After that incident, Emily tried to interact with me as little as possible in front of our parents. Maybe she felt responsible for getting me yelled at for giving me the dress. But despite such harsh discrimination in my childhood, I had happy moments. Dad was always late coming home from work, but Mom was a stay-at-home mom, always around. So, after my parents had gone to bed, Emily would sneak into my room at night. We'd chat and hang out, just like old times. Those moments with my favorite sister were precious to me. But then, there were times I'd call hellish. That was when Emily had piano lessons. Dad once said, if she's beautiful and can play piano, she'll be unbeatable, and made her take piano lessons. As for me, I knew they wouldn't bother with lessons for me, so I never asked. Of course, my parents weren't interested in me and never suggested anything. So, when Emily went to her weekly piano lessons, it was just Mom and me at home. Without Emily to protect me, Mom's attitude towards me got even worse. One day, she said, Emily is so cute, but you, Samantha, you just have such an average face.
Huh?
I was so frustrated and sad I couldn't stand it.
Stop comparing me to Emily, please.
Gathering all my courage, I tried to stand up to my mom for the first time. Tears spilled from my eyes without me even realizing it. Seeing me like that, my mom laughed.
What's with that face? You look even uglier when you cry. Who on earth did you take after?
I mean, I am unmistakably the child of my parents, taking after both equally. If anything, it's Emily who doesn't resemble our parents at all, looking nothing like them due to some kind of throwback gene. She's too beautiful. Yet, my parents dote on my beautiful sister, who doesn't resemble them, rather than me, who does. I mustered all my courage to speak up, but their words shattered my heart instantly. After that, I never talked back to my dad or mom again. Months passed in this way. Emily's going to be a high schooler starting in the fall. Being smart, Emily was going to attend a prestigious public school. I wanted to go to the same high school as my amazing sister, but it was a high hurdle. Still, I studied hard. But my mom's words easily shattered my efforts.
We're moving to New York soon.
I was confused, thinking it was just another trip. But she said, just so you know, we're not coming back. This house will be handed over to someone else in a week.
Wait, are we moving? That's right. Emily got scouted by an agent from a famous agency in New York. She'll get to take lessons to polish her acting and expression skills. Then she'll have a chance to audition for dramas and stuff.
Mom's eyes sparkled as she spoke.
But since it's an agency in New York, she's giving up the high school she was going to attend here and will go to a school in New York instead. Wow, that's amazing, Emily. Then I guess I need to rethink where I'm going to.
Thinking about the high school I'd been working hard to get into and realizing I couldn't go there anymore, I felt a bit down. But then, what my dad said next was unbelievable.
Huh? What are you talking about? You're staying here. So no need to change your plans for further education. Well, that's if we could even afford to send someone like you to school. What? What do you mean? Aren't we losing this house? Aren't you, Emily, Mom, and Dad all leaving for New York? And what do you mean by affording my education? We're not taking you to New York, and we have no intention of paying for you to go to high school. That's what we're saying.
I was confused and couldn't comprehend their words.
Wait, so how am I supposed to live from now on? What do I know? You're old enough to figure something out on your own.
I was shocked that my dad, at my mere 14 years of age, expected me to fend for myself.
But I can't live alone. I can't even go to school. Why is it always Emily who gets everything?
I shouted these obvious truths at my parents, hoping they would understand. But, as usual, my mom just laughed at me.
Emily will definitely succeed, so if we think of it as an investment for her future, we don't mind spending a lot of money. But you? What do you have? You're just an ordinary person. Do you think someone like you will succeed? Of course not. It's a waste to spend money on you.
Stunned by my mom's words, I couldn't hold back my tears. Then my dad added, Emily is the only daughter we're proud of, smart and beautiful. We don't need a failed, ugly thing like you. No matter how unloved or discriminated against, I loved my parents. After all, they were my only mom and dad in this world. I wanted to be loved and tried hard. I thought if I could at least be smart or good at sports, maybe they would care. I wished to be a normal family again like in the past, holding on to hope even as I nearly gave up many times. But being clearly told I was unwanted, I realized my wishes would never come true, and tears filled my eyes. Seeing me crying, my father said,
Even if Emily wants to take you to New York, we will never take you with us. If she asks you to come along, you must refuse, got it? But, you want to get in the way of your sister who's finally starting to succeed? If you insist on going to New York with her, we won't have the money for her future. Are you okay with that? Ruining your sister's future.
It was an awful thing to say. My father had the audacity to start saying that if I went along, I would ruin Emily's future. Now that I'm older, I know that's not true. It wasn't my fault. I might have been able to say that. But back then, I was too young to stand up to my father's words. Emily wasn't there that day. With her modeling jobs, piano lessons, and cram school for exams, she was increasingly away from home. The terrible words from my parents were spoken when she was absent. I was in despair. Then, a week later, the day came when my father, mother, and Emily were leaving for New York. Emily had always thought, of course, I would go with them. But as I made no preparations to leave the house, Emily asked, Is something wrong? Then my mom announced, Samantha isn't coming to New York with us. What? Why? Emily was shocked and wide-eyed.
Because she doesn't want to leave her friends. But well, of course, she wouldn't want to, she's graduating in a year and wouldn't want to transfer schools now.
In front of me, my mother blatantly lied.
Samantha, is that true?
I wanted to say, no. I want to go with you. But my father glared at me like a demon, and I was too scared to speak. After a while of silence, my father hurried us, Come on. It's almost time for the train. While I stayed silent, I thought about whether I should say I wanted to come. But my heart had already reached its limit. Living every day being compared to my sister was unbearable. The thought of those days continuing was too much. And I didn't want to get in the way of my beloved sister, no matter what. I made up my mind.
Yeah. I don't want to leave my friends. But how will you live by yourself, Samantha?
Emily looked at me with concern. Then my father said, It's okay. Your aunt and uncle said they would take care of Samantha. They'll come to pick her up soon. No need to worry, Emily. I had never heard such a thing. I doubted whether my father had even contacted my aunt and uncle. Emily gently offered several times, Shall we go together? If you're not going, I'll stay here, and we can live together. But I shook my head. Staying with her would only hinder her future. I thought. In the end, Emily was forcibly taken out of the house by our mother. I was left behind, clinging to the faint hope in my father's words that my aunt and uncle will come to pick me up, waiting alone for hours in the cold, dim room. But, as expected, they never came. It was probably just a lie my father made up on the spot.
What am I even doing? What should I do now?
I couldn't believe I had still trusted the words of such a terrible father. I despised myself. My father and mother left, taking only my beautiful sister with them. What should I do now? Lost in thought, I suddenly remembered my grandparents who had always been so kind to Emily and me when we were younger. Desperately searching the empty house, I finally found my grandfather's contact information. I remembered how we used to visit our grandparents' rural home every year when our family was still normal. However, once our family turned abnormal, my parents lost interest in both my grandparents and me, leading to estrangement. Calling this number was a gamble. I wasn't sure if it would still connect me to my grandfather or if he would be willing to help. With trembling hands, I dialed the number written on the note. I didn't have a cell phone, so I had to go to a nearby payphone. My heart started pounding wildly. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
He answered. At the sound of my grandfather's voice, I burst into tears and cried out.
Grandpa! Help me! What's the matter? Is that you, Samantha? Emily? It's Samantha. Dad and Mom abandoned me because they said I'm ugly. They're living in New York with Emily. What should I do?
I pleaded with my grandfather in a trembling voice. Then he said, I'm coming right now. Just wait for me at home. I started walking back home, waiting for my grandfather. The fear of being betrayed again, the fear that he might not come, was unbearable. But a few hours later, my grandfather really did come. And my grandmother was with him. They both looked quite disheveled, as if they had rushed over. Seeing me alone in the empty house with just a few belongings, my grandfather was furious. I'm unwanted. They said they don't need an ugly daughter like me. I couldn't help but cry again as I spoke. Then my grandfather hugged me tightly.
Don't worry. How about living with us from now on? And you're not ugly, Samantha.
You're such a beautiful girl, my grandmother added. You have a model-like figure. Be confident.
You'll see. Samantha will become a wonderful woman that everyone will admire.
They held me until I calmed down. After that, I lived with my grandparents. When we got home, my grandfather immediately called my father, but he didn't answer despite numerous attempts. After about 10 tries, it seemed like my grandfather finally got through, but after the call, he was furious, saying, I don't want anything to do with such a heartless man. I didn't know what they talked about, but I could guess it was probably about how they didn't need me or how important Emily was to them. But having my grandfather stand up for me brought some peace to my heart. No one had ever defended me against my parents before, and maybe that's why it felt so good. I had to transfer schools and couldn't attend the high school I wanted to, but living in a warm home where I was greeted with smiles and hot meals every day was blissful. Though I sometimes thought of Emily and my parents, I never felt lonely, thanks to my grandparents' loving care. 6 years passed, and I celebrated my 20th birthday as an adult. I was living away from my grandparents due to work. Today, on my rare day off, I decided to visit my beloved grandparents. They were thrilled to see me, saying, We've missed you. You've become so impressive. As we were catching up, the doorbell rang, and my grandfather went to answer it. Moments later, I heard him shout, Get out of here right now. Wondering what was happening, my grandmother and I headed to the entrance, and there, to my shock, were my parents.
Dad, Mom. Ah, there you are. You've grown up so much. You've become such a beauty. Wow, we're surprised.
They looked at me with smirks on their faces. The last time I saw them, they had been quite different. My father, who had been somewhat chubby, was now gaunt with sunken cheeks. My mother, once always decked out in brand-name clothes and perfect makeup, was wearing shabby clothes, with no makeup and disheveled hair.
What happened to you two? You've changed a lot. You've changed too. You used to be so ugly. And now you're all over TV. You must be rich, right? Give us some money. That's why we came today. That's right. Now you're even going abroad for shoots. Give us our share, please.
Yes, I was now working as a model. Ever since I was little, I was tall for my age. By the time I was in elementary school, I already stood at about 5 feet 4 inches. After my parents abandoned me, I started living with my grandparents. Thanks to their nutritious meals, I grew to about 5 feet 9 inches. Back then, I thought girls should be petite to be cute, so I felt complexed and disliked my increasing height. Then, one day, During a trip to New York with my friends, a stranger approached me.
Hey, you. You've got an amazing style. You could definitely make it in showbiz. Would you like to become a model at my agency? She said.
At first, I thought she was suspicious, but her business card showed she was from a well-known major agency. I was thunderstruck at being scouted. When I got home and told my grandparents, they were thrilled.
Didn't Grandpa tell you? Samantha, you're beautiful and have a great figure. You're Grandpa's pride and joy.
And so, I left my grandparents to live in New York. Though it was sad to leave them, I worked hard, eager to show my beloved grandparents how well I was doing. My efforts paid off, and I became a sought-after model on TV. When my parents saw me on TV and realized I was successful, they came asking for money.
Are you kidding me? Is that all you have to say to your daughter after 6 years?
Grandpa scolded them before I could. But my dad wouldn't back down.
Emily's gone. She said she was leaving for a role in an overseas drama and hasn't been back for 2 years. We've tried contacting her numerous times, but no reply. And now, we've run through all the savings Emily made.
Hearing this, I burst out laughing.
So you finally spent all my sister's savings.
What are you laughing at? My dad snapped.
Because Emily is right here. Long time no see, Mom, Dad.
With that, Emily emerged from the back of the house.
Why are you here?
6 years ago. When our parents took Emily and left. She worried about me constantly. Later, recalling the kindness of our grandparents, she wondered if I might turn to them for help and called Grandpa. Hearing her voice again made me so happy I cried. From then on, Emily and I kept in touch regularly, meeting secretly so our parents wouldn't find out. I was so happy we could be close sisters again. Emily, as it turned out, wanted to be a piano teacher rather than continue in entertainment. But our parents refused, saying, "You'll make more money as a celebrity." When Dad earlier said they had spent all of Emily's savings, it turned out that despite her hard work in the entertainment industry, most of her earnings were taken by our parents, leaving her little for herself. They quit their jobs, relying entirely on Emily's income, and led a degraded life. To them, Emily was just a cash cow. I used to be so envious of Emily, thinking she had everything from our parents. But I didn't see the struggles she faced, the pain of being their puppet. She didn't want to live controlled by them. She wanted to follow her own dreams. After discussing with Grandpa, Emily had moved in with them 2 years ago. So, she had been there all along. Seeing Emily, our parents were as shocked as if they'd seen a ghost.
You want Samantha's money? We'll never let that happen. What are you talking about? Weren't you abroad? That was just a lie, an excuse to get away from you too. Now it's our turn to leave you. That's right. But how are we supposed to live without money? You're adults, you can fend for yourselves. Just like you told me.
I threw back the exact words my parents once said to me, right back at them.
What? We don't need selfish parents like you. We have our loving grandparents, so please leave.
Saying that, Emily and I forcibly kicked our parents out of the house. We looked at each other and laughed. After that, our parents tried to contact our grandparents many times, but they never responded. I don't know how Mom and Dad are living now. To us, they're just strangers, and we don't care. A year has passed since Emily and I turned our parents away. Emily became a piano teacher. She's fulfilling her dream, teaching piano to adorable kids. I've advanced even further in my career and will be walking the runway in an international fashion show next year. I've promised to invite my grandparents and Emily to the show. At my grandparents' house, there are lots of magazine cutouts and photo albums featuring me. Emily, my biggest fan, seems to collect every magazine I'm in. She even attends my autograph sessions.
You came again? It costs money and it's far. I'll sign for you when I come home. I say, but she insists, it's okay. You are so busy, I want to see you at these events.
For my kind and adorable sister and beloved grandparents, I want to keep shining as a successful model.